We are back with part 2 of our conversation about navigating our digital world. If you have not yet heard or seen part 1, please watch that first and then catch up with us for this week. Welcome to Clear Creek Chat. That's Chat with 2 T's because this podcast is coming to you from Chattanooga, Tennessee, and is a ministry of Clear Creek Church of Christ. In each episode, we gather a few of our friends together to talk about issues that touch our lives locally and have broader implication for the kingdom of God. This is actually part 2 of a 2-parter about the digital world that our families now live in, and I've got with me our children's minister, Laura Harbin.
Hello.
Hello. And a good friend of ours, Jason Brazier.
Hello again.
And as we introduced in last week, Jason is a former youth minister. He's currently a counselor with Greater Chattanooga Christian Services. So we're glad to have both of them joining us today. And again, this is part 2, so we're just going to jump right back into some content. Our first episode was mostly a conversation about the realities that we live in right now. And this episode's going to be more direct application of what can the families do, what can our parents do to help our kids develop healthy habits regarding digital devices, screen time, and living in this technologically infused world that we find ourselves in. So let's just jump right into this with a straight question. How much screen time are kids exposed to currently? And ultimately, what is a healthy amount? Jason, you want to start us off?
Yeah, that's a good question. And I had some stats on my computer that I'm bringing up. The average, I went to a workshop for coaching and counseling digital addiction and wellness, and the presenter said the average 8 to 10-year-old in the U.S. spends around how many hours a day?
8. You said 8-year-old?
8 to 10-year-old in front of a screen. How many hours in front of a day?
In front of any screen?
How many hours a day in front
I'm going
of
to
a
say
screen?
4.
I'm going to say 4 or 5.
8 hours.
Oh.
That's bad.
Teens may spend as many as 11 hours per day. And so it says many children spend more time interacting with media than they do spending sleeping or going to school.
Well, that sounds like a good thing, right?
To a kid.
Since the sarcasm coming from my voice.
So there is a lot, and we've talked about there's a lot with school, so that's a little bit different. We want to kind of weigh those differently, but it's a lot of time, and there's a lot of research that has come out recently. I meant to mention this last time. There's a lot of just right now, it's hard to research this because finding research on adolescents, you got to jump through a few more hoops to be able to do that. And also, there's probably, we mentioned some nefarious ways that people are making money off of advertising and all that. And you can find out more information about that from the Social Dilemma documentary, if you want to check that out on Netflix. But there may be some people who are actively trying to not let some disparaging research come out about how much we spend on
big data, right?
Yeah, big data. I don't want to come across as too much conspiracy theory here, but there's a lot. We spend a lot of time, and it has effects on us. One of those things that has been on the rise, research-based, from around 2011, 2012, is that the rise in anxiety and depression in adolescents has been on the rise since then. The iPhone came out in 2009. And so, is that even right?
I think it was 07 or 08.
07, yeah, that's right, 2007.
A million years ago.
But I feel like we've kind of been in this ongoing experiment. How is this thing actually affecting us? And now research is coming out to say if you spend past this threshold, it actually does correlate with your rise in anxiety, feelings of isolation. If you're spending too much time on social media, which is intended to connect, it actually makes you feel more disconnected. That is particularly true for young girls, even more so than young boys, but it's for both. It's not good. Once you pass a certain threshold of time, it gets worse for you. Here's another disparaging statistic that I found. There was another slide that she had that said parents spend around 35 minutes each day in face-to-face time with their family.
With their family?
With their family. 35 minutes.
Yikes.
And I've presented this before with seminars, and some parents, I was hoping everyone would be shocked by that and say, no, not our family. But some said, you know what, that might be a little bit high. You know, some people that I've been in seminars with. And so that's scary, isn't it? That's very scary.
It is. Do you find that more often from families with older kids who are busier and going 1,000 different places versus like young children?
Absolutely. This is a harder talk for people with older kids because we kind of feel like we're ingrained. And that's what I found in youth ministry, that the things that I knew, ministries and maybe mentoring or whatever I tried to introduce with older kids, it was a lot more difficult than if I went and tried to do that with middle schoolers. Always, the earlier you start, kind of the better it is to be able to make that thing happen. But we've been using our phones by high school. I've been watching TV this much time. Please don't tell me that I can't anymore. It almost feels like if you were to restrict my phone use, it almost feels like you're cutting off my hand.
Yeah.
Really. There's a great TED talk about this idea of we're now cyborgs almost, like all these tools that we had introduced to us. A hammer is an extension of your hand, all of these different things that, but our phone is so many different things. It really is so integrated into us. And it is very much, we have to be very careful. It is so ingrained into the psyche of our young people that you need to get creative in your restrictions and your punishment, not to say you can't take away the phone and the screens. It's just like, it really does hurt kids when that happens.
Now, you had asked us before we started recording to pull up our own screen time report from our phones. Anybody want to throw out there how they've been averaging?
Well, mine was pretty good. I feel like sometimes it's usually around 2 hours, 2.5 hours. And my iPhone tells me you were up this week, or whatever. This week I'm a little down, but I'm not going to sound like I'm bragging. But anyways, so some of you may say that's bad, or some of you say, how's he do that? Laura said something.
I would like to know how you would do that. I have had a very good average of 3.5 hours for many years, and not now.
Uh-oh.
Post-COVID it's like 6 hours a day. So, yeah, it's not good. Not good.
I'm sitting around 3, according to what my phone said. So that's good enough, I guess. Let's actually take what Laura said kind of to the next moment here, because we're in a different time right now with the coronavirus. We're filming this in October of 2020, right in the middle of it all still. And it does raise the question, if so many of our students and families and teachers, so many people are dependent on technology just to continue life, and business people using Zoom and all these things, right? How does that change the conversation about how much screen time is appropriate? Because our kids are on it way more than usual because they have to be. Thoughts?
I feel like you almost have to flip it because they are on it for school more. You almost have to say, okay, there's no TV time. Like where normally they've been at school all day, they haven't been looking at a screen the majority of the day. So they can get TV time just to chill and relax. And now it's almost reverse. You have to find other avenues for them to engage in before they, can do it, one of those games or ride in the car, watch TV or movie or whatever. And also just like, I think all the good doctors are saying right now, get outside, step away from that room. Like if you're working from home or if you are on virtual learner at home, you get away from wherever that computer is or that device is that you're using, just to make that internal boundary in your home of, okay, we're done with that for the day. I'm not going to look at it again until tomorrow morning. Yeah.
Otherwise you just get brain fried.
Yeah.
That's how it feels.
Tired.
I'm going to go real young here. What the American Academy of Pediatrics says. So child development is very big. Children's ministry, this, that a lot of really important stuff happens in the very beginning years. And so if you have very, very little ones, they say under 18 months, there should be no screen time. Except now they've recently come up with except the video chatting. They've kind of said this is a different thing, So FaceTime, all those things. Ages 2 to 5 years old, 1 hour per day of high quality programming, and watch with your child. And so I can hear that and want to do that. We think PBS Kids is pretty high quality. We are big proponents of that. There's not advertising, there's not commercials, which is great. But do we always watch it with our kids? No, we do not. We need a digital babysitter to come in and just let us get some stuff done.
We've all been there.
Yeah.
Ages 6 and older, consistent limits on time spent using media. So they're kind of even stepping away and saying you need to be proactive in how you set these boundaries, and then have ongoing conversations as you develop. And that's important because things will creep in. They will steal our time and our attention if we are not, again, mindful of that happening. It's just gonna happen.
And I think we have to be along those same lines of being mindful is just as you're teaching your child good nutrition, there's a consistency factor. And so you're establishing healthy eating habits. Well, the same way we're establishing boundaries when it comes to our screen time, mommy and daddy included, grandparents included,
yes,
when they're taking care of them. So that is just so important. Like I think you said it was the architect stage you're referring to in the book that you'll share more at the seminar. That is when under age 10, I would say, we have more, I don't want to say control, but we have more.
That's the right word, though.
It is the right word. We have more of the opportunity to structure what does a healthy habit look like? Because you are probably going to be an adult in a more digital world than we're in right now.
Sure.
And they have to have those tools in their skill set as a child to be like, oh, that's too much, or that was awesome. Thanks, Mom.
Yeah. So we've definitely rolled into the idea of setting up boundaries. We've talked about some age group stuff. I know Jason's going to come back to that. Actually, right now, why don't you share with us some of this
so
age group?
There are different stages, and I was telling you guys, I have a 3-year-old and a 5-year-old, so there's a lot of people who might listen to this and say, what does that guy know? Because I am at a different stage, and my stage is what they classify in this book that I mentioned. They call that the architect's phase. So I get to just create the rules and the structure, and I don't really even, yes, my 5-year-old does ask why all the time, but really I can just say because daddy said so, and this is the way that it is, and he'll accept that. As we get older, there's going to be a little more explanation in the mentor phase, which is kind of kids get a little bit older. We're having to engage with them and having more lessons and skills taught about why this is important, and what we're really trying to maximize through using this device, and what are the needs that we're really trying to meet through using this thing. And then the last one is we're setting them up for companion phase, where really we walk alongside our older kids and we're both using them. We're just creating them to be good digital citizens where they can go out and they can use the devices. We trust them to use it responsibly. I'm not putting as much restrictions on them. I can't really. It's not really appropriate for me to do that anymore as much as I used to in the earlier phases. So,
yeah. We talk about different ages, and of course, different ages as they grow up, they develop greater degrees of responsibility that they can have. And certainly what you do with a 0 to 2-year-old is different than what you do with an 18-year-old. There's a huge range there, and we don't have time to talk about all of those things right now. But one of the major boundaries that we run into is this idea of when does the kid get their own device? When do they get the phone? And I'm sure if we just answered this, we could make a lot of people really happy and a lot really mad, depending on what number. So I'm not sure that we're looking for a number, but regarding giving more freedom and giving more responsibility and giving them a little bit more leash to try things and use different apps. We're not going to necessarily name different apps, but like what kinds of steps can we be taking as parents, as families, to give our kids more freedom as they get older?
Yeah. So the comparison game, just in general, as you were talking about, it really doesn't help us feel better about ourselves usually when I'm comparing myself to someone else. But in the Bible, it seems like 12 is a magic number for some reason. That's a pretty important number age-wise. But 13 right now is a number, and I'm not saying that for when kids get it, but that's the legal age that kids can get on social media platforms. And so if your kid is asking for something because I want to get on Twitter, I want to get on Facebook, I want to get on all these things, you can straight up say to them, no, it's illegal for you to do that. And I know a lot of people at our church whose kids got on it before they were supposed to because they lied about their age in the login information. But there's reasons why they say at this age, it's probably not best for kids to be on it beforehand. So, again, we're going to trust the experts that they kind of know what they're talking about, and we can say this is it. But I believe that a community kind of reshaping what's acceptable. We had this conversation at Red Bank, and we presented family tech plans together, and we did our best not to judge each other and say, oh, the things that the Braziers did, what world are they living in? It wasn't that. We got enough people to present to say, oh, we're kind of creating a new normal together. Like, the world might look at us and say, that's crazy, but we kind of said, no, for our family, this is what we're saying, and this is why we think that this works. And what's most important is we're having this discussion as a family together, particularly with your older stages of development.
That's a great point. What do you think about this to kind of wrap us up here, Laura? Boundaries and freedoms.
Yes. Well, we haven't purchased a phone for our kids yet.
But he's 11.
He is 11.
Come on, Mom.
I guess we're just like, well, we know your coaches and we have their numbers. So if you really need us, they can call us if you need to get picked up or something. So, and honestly, he hasn't even asked for it.
He's a good boy.
He is most days. So it's not become a battle in our home yet. They do have a Fitbit watch, so I think that suffices as far as them having something that looks like a smartwatch.
And allows them to track their steps.
And they can tinker with it. Yeah. I'm not sure what he uses it for, honestly. But, so far it hasn't become an issue, but I do know that several families give their child one, like a 5th grade graduation or whenever they go up to wherever their middle school, their next stage of school starts. So I'm not saying that they're necessarily getting it for social media purposes. More or less, it's just like, I know where you are.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
You can have a way to get a hold of me if you don't know how to. It's a tracking help. And then just the pictures I like.
It is a camera.
Fun looking at pictures,
That's right.
and making funny videos. So,
well, there is so much more we could say about this. And of course, we're limited in time here. But if you would like to join us for a longer conversation and hear more from Jason, and he's got lots of resources that he would like to share with really anyone that wants to participate. October, is it 19th? Is that right? October 19th. It's a Monday night, a couple of weeks from now. He's going to be hosting an online video chat that we're going to host on his behalf, and he's going to be sharing for a couple of hours all of these thoughts in much more detail about how you as families can help your kids navigate this digital world that we live in. So if you want to know more about that, again, clearcreekcoc.org, look into our upcoming activities page, and there's a description of this particular video chat that we're going to be hosting for that. So I want to thank Laura and Jason for joining me today on this podcast. Good conversation today, y'all. I think this is really relevant to so many of our families. I want to remind all of you out there that it is your responsibility and your duty as a disciple to make other disciples throughout your neighborhood, throughout the world around you, and throughout our city of Chattanooga or wherever you happen to live. Grace and peace.